Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something a bit counterintuitive, maybe. Yeah, this idea that moving to another country could actually reduce loneliness, help you build deeper connections.
Right. It flies in the face of the usual lonely expat narrative, doesn't it?
It really does.
Yeah.
We're looking at this through the lens of people living that global nomad lifestyle,
Yeah.
what they've found.
And I think this is really for anyone out there who maybe feels a bit disconnected, like they don't quite fit where they are, or they're just searching for more, I guess, intentional relationships.
Exactly. We're not just talking theory here. We'll get into some personal stories, different angles on loneliness itself, and some practical ways people are building social lives abroad.
So the mission today is really to unpack how this huge life change, moving internationally, can actually boost your social well-being, not hinder it.
Okay, so let's start with that big assumption. Everyone thinks packing up means, well, being lonely, right? That's the standard image.
That is definitely the story we hear most often. The isolated traveler, missing home. But hang on a second.
Yeah.
How many people feel lonely right now in their own hometowns, surrounded by familiar faces, familiar streets?
That's a really good point. Loneliness isn't really about geography, is it?
Not exclusively. It can happen anywhere. Feeling like you don't quite connect, or maybe you've just, I don't know, outgrown your surroundings.
Yeah.
That happens everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings us to this really interesting anecdote. Someone we were looking at, they had their 40th birthday in Monaco,
Okay.
and 17 friends flew in from all over the world, paying their own way.
Wow. 17. International travel. Just for birthday.
Right, and think about the contrast. How easy or maybe how difficult would it be to get 17 local friends together for a big birthday bash back home? Does being nearby automatically mean people are more invested?
Yeah, that really makes you think. The effort involved for those 17 people, it challenges that whole idea that proximity equals connection strength. It
Yeah.
just doesn't automatically.
It really doesn't. And the person telling the story, they said something powerful, that even when you're moving around a lot, loneliness isn't inevitable. It can be a choice you make.
Okay, so if it's not automatically lonelier, why might someone actually feel less lonely after moving abroad? What's going on there?
Well, there seem to be a few things at play. One big one is finding people who are really on your wavelength, finally connecting with your tribe, so to speak.
Yeah. Like that team member you mentioned,
Mm.
the one who moved because they felt their local friendships just weren't aligning anymore. They were searching for something else.
Exactly. It's that feeling sometimes when you stay put, you get stuck in old dynamics or expectations that just don't fit who you are now. A new place can be freeing.
It lets you connect with people based on who you are today, not who you used to be 5, 10 years ago.
Which leads nicely into the next idea, intentionality.
Ah, yes. Intentionality in relationships. Big difference. Back home, a lot of friendships, let's be honest, are based on convenience.
Sure, you live close, went to the same school, work in the same office, shared routines.
Right. But abroad,
Mm.
when you meet someone new, especially from a different background, building that connection usually takes, well, conscious effort from both sides.
You're both actively choosing to invest time and energy. It's not just drifting along because you bump into each other all the time.
Precisely. And then there's this other angle, how bumping up against cultural differences can actually, maybe surprisingly, deepen your self-understanding.
How does that work?
Well, when you encounter different ways of doing things,
Mhm.
different values, it kind of forces you to look at your own values, your own identity. Why do you believe what you believe?
Okay, so it sparks self-reflection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this process, this trying to maybe become, a slightly better version of yourself, almost like that Japanese idea, Kaizen, improving 1% daily.
Continuous improvement.
Yeah. That clarity about yourself can actually help you connect more deeply with people who resonate with the real you, the more authentic you. You know yourself better, so you find your people more easily.
So it's less about running away from something and more about running towards something better, towards people or environments that actually fit.
The motivation really matters. If you're pulled towards stronger relationships, towards a place that aligns with your interests, the outcome is likely much more positive.
Like that example of the woman finding other female entrepreneurs overseas, people who shared her specific drive, which she felt was missing back home.
Like a perfect example of a positive pull. And remember the story about the speaker's father down in Mexico?
Yeah. Building those strong bonds.
With expats and locals, people who had all made that deliberate choice to be there. There's an inherent understanding, a shared starting point.
That shared experience, making such a big life move, It seems to create an instant connection, doesn't it?
It really does. It's like this unspoken thing among expats. Why did you choose this? There's a curiosity, a shared narrative almost.
Which you might not get as easily with people who've never made that kind of leap.
And this brings us back to what loneliness even is. Sometimes it's not about being physically alone, right? It's feeling like you're on autopilot.
Mm. Surrounded by people maybe, but they don't quite get you. Your perspective, what makes you tick.
That disconnect, even in a full room. And look, finding someone who truly, deeply understands you, that's rare. Anyway,
So true. So maybe the shift abroad is towards quality over quantity, prioritizing depth.
exactly, living intentionally. And that includes intentionally building relationships that genuinely nourish you. It doesn't matter if that's in your hometown or 10,000 miles away.
Okay, so let's make this practical. How does this look for different people? What about families thinking about moving? Kids, schools? That seems like a big hurdle.
Well, you've got examples like Joshua Sheets, traveling with his wife and 5 kids, homeschooling. It seems to have actually strengthened their family bond, sharing those adventures.
That challenges the default assumption that it's automatically disruptive for families.
Right. And the worry about kids making friends, the basics are the same everywhere, aren't they? Find common interests, be open, put yourself out there a bit.
And maybe moving overseas actually opens more doors for kids sometimes. New activities, international schools, meeting kids from all sorts of backgrounds could be quite enriching.
Absolutely. You can break them out of maybe limiting social bubbles back home.
Okay, what about couples? Does moving impact their joint social life?
Well, the idea that you have to move back home to start a family gets challenged too. People give birth abroad, raise families abroad all the time.
Sure. And if a couple wants to build a social network together in a new place?
The advice seems pretty straightforward. Be proactive. Host a party, join a club, find people with shared hobbies. Remember that story about the party in KL?
The majestic hotel gathering that led to a lasting friendship.
Yeah, just taking that initiative. It shows it works.
It really highlights that shared passions are key, not just living on the same street. And nowadays, with online groups and local meetups for everything imaginable, it's probably easier than ever to find your people wherever you are.
Okay, now singles. This is often where the biggest concerns about isolation come up.
Interestingly, though, the suggestion was that singles might actually find better romantic relationships overseas.
Really? Why is that?
Well, partly linked to that personal growth we talked about, navigating a new culture makes you maybe more self-aware. Yeah. And also just encountering a potentially different dating scene, maybe one that fits better than home.
There was that mention of maybe negative experiences with dating back home. The idea that looking elsewhere might lead to more genuine connections.
Yeah, and that image of the friend in Ireland just scrolling endlessly through TikTok, maybe feeling a bit stuck, looking for something more purposeful.
Right. It comes back to not settling, not just accepting relationships out of habit or obligation. Moving can be that push to reassess what you really want.
Which brings us to that crucial point.
Right.
Quality versus quantity.
Absolutely fundamental. The value of having just a few really close supportive friends versus, hundreds of acquaintances you barely know.
That mention of Georgia being a place where loyalty and friendship is maybe easier to find, that's an interesting cultural note.
And the overall feeling is that friendships formed overseas, maybe because of that shared experience and intentionality we discussed, can often run deeper, be more meaningful.
Of course, we should also say some people are just more introverted. They prefer fewer, deeper connections anyway. And that's perfectly fine too, wherever they live.
Totally. It's about what works for you.
Mm.
But the core idea remains. Being proactive, being intentional, that seems key to finding connection, whether you stay or go.
And for anyone actually thinking about making that move, there are resources. Nomad Capitalist website was mentioned for help and guidance.
Right. And things like the Nomad Capitalist live event, opportunities to actually meet other people who think globally, face to face, build that community.
Definitely. And then just briefly at the end, there was that hint of the broader picture, living well, maybe even luxuriously, like the Lisbon example.
Yeah, just suggesting that the benefits can go beyond just the social side. It opens up a whole range of possibilities for how you want to live your life.
So wrapping this all up, the big message is moving abroad doesn't automatically mean signing up for loneliness. Far from it.
Yeah, for many, it can actually be the spark that ignites deeper, more meaningful connections. It's about finding your place, finding your people.
So the key takeaway for you, listening, is maybe to pause and think. Does your current environment, your current social circle, really give you the kind of connection you want?
Could exploring somewhere else, geographically, actually lead to more social fulfillment? It's a big question, but maybe worth pondering.
And here's a final thought to leave you with. Take a look at the relationships in your life right now. Are they built on real intention, shared values, or are they more about convenience, history, obligation?
And what small step could you take, starting today, wherever you are, to cultivate connections that feel more meaningful? Something to chew on.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.